The 2025 Blade 14 and Zephyrus G14 are both premium 14-inch gaming laptops. Razer made the Blade a lot like the Zephyrus this year though. And since they're very close in price, they're directly competing with each other. So which one of these tiny beasts has the better package? And more importantly, which one has the better value? Well, let's find out. And please like and subscribe if you like these type of videos. From the outside, it's pretty obvious that they're both going for a sleek but not boring design. The Blade has a fully black color with that iconic LED Razer logo on the back, but it also comes in a silver color. And the Zephyrus has a silver/whitish color with this LED strip on the back, which can show stuff like notifications. But it also comes in a matte gray color. And the Blade picks up fingerprints a lot easier than the Zephyrus, even compared to that gray color. They both have a full aluminum body, but while the Blade 14 used to be an absolute tank, it actually has a bit more body flex than the Zephyrus this year. But both of these are built incredibly well and feel like some of the sturdiest gaming laptops ever. During this video you'll notice that the Blade has been copying the Zephyrus a bit though, because it got a lot thinner this year. And now they're really close in weight as well, so they are both impressively lightweight for a gaming laptop. But while they may have the same dimensions from the outside, from the inside, the Zephyrus simply has a faster CPU and GPU. Now you might ask, why not spec them the same? Isn't this unfair for the Blade 14? Well, the Blade only goes up to a 5070, while the Zephyrus goes all the way up to an RTX 5080. And at this same price, the Zephyrus just has faster components. It also has a lot more power available for its GPU, which we will see the results of in the performance benchmarks. Both of these laptops actually have the exact same port selection, and it has basically everything you can think of. The only difference here is that the Blade has most of its ports on the right side, while the Zephyrus has these on the left side. And this can be a bit annoying if you connect your laptop to external displays a lot, since the cable runs where you use your mouse. They both have pretty identical charging bricks, being about the same size, weight, and wattage. They do use their own proprietary ports though, and the Blade's connector is a lot tighter. But if you don't want to carry around a big brick, you could always just use a smaller charger, since they both support USB-C charging up to 100 watts. But these two do not perform the same on battery, which we will see in the performance benchmarks. These two laptops both have very good keyboards. But while the Zephyrus has a single zone RGB backlight for the whole keyboard, the Blade 14 has per key RGB for each individual key, which allows for some pretty cool effects and customization. Its backlight also gets a lot brighter, so take that as you will. As for the keys themselves, they both sound and feel great. But the Blade has a bit shorter key travel, while the Zephyrus has longer key travel and a more satisfying click. They're both great, but I personally prefer the Zephyrus with that extra key travel. The Zephyrus also has 4 macro keys at the top here, which can be customized, as well as a power button separate from the keyboard. The Razer Blade has this button integrated, which takes a bit getting used to since this is normally where the delete button is. And lastly, the Blade only has half-size arrow keys for up and down, while the Zephyrus has half-size keys for all directions. Now their touchpads are very similar. The Blade's touchpad is quite a bit larger in width, but they're both made of glass and feel very premium. The Blade has a shorter, lighter sounding click, while the Zephyrus has a longer, deeper sounding one. But these two are very similar and very good, which can also be said for their displays. They're basically the exact same and pretty much the best of the best when it comes to laptops at this size. But there is a massive difference here: their reflectiveness. The Zephyrus has a glossy display, but with a great anti-reflective coating. But the Blade essentially just has a 14-inch mirror built in. You do notice this in day-to-day use, and using it outside is very annoying because of this. So keep that in mind. Other than that, they're pretty much identical. They both look great, have amazing colors, and very deep blacks. But the blacks on the Blade are just more reflective. They both got just as bright at 500 nits and have a very high resolution of 3K. And both of these feel great for gaming, even in faster paced games like Counter-Strike. As for their display hinges, they both open up about as far. And the Blade does have a little less display wobble, but this won't be noticeable in day-to-day use. Now the Zephyrus is the speaker king in terms of Windows laptops, but Razer did update the speakers in the Razer Blade this year. So can it take the crown from the Zephyrus? Well, unfortunately, no. The Zephyrus still sounds a little better. It has larger sounding speakers, it gets louder, and it has a lot more bass, and actually has surround sound. Don't get me wrong, these two are both great for day-to-day use. The Zephyrus is just a little bit better. The Blade 14 has a higher quality webcam than the Zephyrus, but the Zephyrus has a better sounding microphone. They both definitely look and sound great enough for video calling though. Now these both come pre-installed with their own respective gaming software. The Razer Blade has Razer Synapse, and the Zephyrus G14 has Armory Crate, or the open source alternative called G-Helper. Both of these apps have quite a bit of customizability. They can each change power profiles, do overclocking, and even undervolting. Razer Synapse does have a more advanced lighting customization software for that per key RGB. But when you unplug them both, the Blade loses all of these performance settings, while the Zephyrus retains it all. So on the Razer Blade on battery, you lose custom fan curves, power profiles, and a lot more. On top of that, G-Helper is a lot more lightweight, so it won't slow your computer down. But if Razer Synapse lags out on the Blade, you just can't do anything. So the Zephyrus kind of has the objectively better software here. But now for the most important part. Which one of these is faster? Well, in Cinebench R23, the Zephyrus's HX370 does outperform the Blade's 365 by a little bit. The 365 is just a bit of a slower chip, so obviously it gets beat by most high-end gaming laptops in 2025. But if we unplug them both, the Blade loses a lot of performance, which will become an issue later on. In 3D Mark TimeSpy, the Zephyrus's RTX 5070 Ti also destroys the 5070 in the Blade 14, and by quite a lot more than I expected. But those are all just benchmarks. How do these two compare in some real-world use, like some actual games?
Okay. I love you, man. Okay.
Kinda game.
You motherfucker, man. You motherfucker, man.
I'll hack you to pieces. Ha! You'll never take me down.
Uh-oh.
I'm not gonna beat around the bush here. The Zephyrus is quite a bit faster than the Blade. It not only outperformed it in benchmarks, but also by a big margin in actual games, especially at 3K. If you want to play games or do anything GPU intensive, the Zephyrus is the better option here. But it's also kind of the better option for everything else, because on battery, the Blade is a lot slower than the Zephyrus. It's normal to lose some power off the wall, but on the Blade, Windows becomes noticeably sluggish at times. which any user will feel the effect of. The Zephyrus does not have this, and can actually even reasonably game on battery. Normally manufacturers do this to conserve battery life, so does the Blade last longer than the Zephyrus? Well, I tested their battery life in two scenarios, under light use and during gaming. In the light use case, I played a YouTube video until they both died, with their displays at full brightness, at 60 Hz, and with their dedicated GPUs turned off. And here, the Zephyrus still outlasted the Blade by quite a bit, so that slowdown on battery is not doing much for its longevity. Now in the gaming scenario, I played Battlefield 1 until they both died, with the same settings as before. And here, of course, they both lasted about an hour. Remember, don't buy a gaming laptop expecting to play games on battery. But the Blade does have a pretty big advantage in terms of thermals and fan noise. While playing Cyberpunk, the Zephyrus reached a maximum of 90 degrees for its CPU and 86 degrees for its GPU. This is on the warmer side, but still acceptable. But the Blade 14 stayed way under that, reaching maximums of 83 degrees for its CPU and a chilling 73 degrees for its GPU, which is downright impressive. The Blade is obviously limiting its hardware to reach those temperatures though, so I don't know if this is a huge win. However, this does mean that it stays a lot quieter during gaming. Now the Blade 14 used to be thicker, so it actually used to have upgradable RAM in last year's model. But now it's just as thin as the Zephyrus, so also just as unupgradable. They both have a single M.2 SSD slot and an upgradable Wi-Fi card. But they also both have soldered RAM this year, which is a real bummer. Now they can be spec'd with up to 64 GB of RAM out of the box, so I don't know if this is a huge issue, but less upgradability is never better in my opinion. Now as for pricing, these two are very close to each other. At the same specifications, these two are about the same price. The Zephyrus is cheaper with its RTX 5060 configuration though, but the Zephyrus has higher spec models, which do cost a little more, but have a lot more CPU and GPU performance. But while the Zephyrus G14 is available basically everywhere in the world, the Razer Blade frequently goes out of stock, or it isn't sold at all in a lot of countries, which made them basically impossible to get last year. But this all of course depends on where you live, so check your local prices and make your purchasing decision based on that. Which brings us to the big question. Which one of these is better, the Zephyrus G14 or the Razer Blade 14? I probably don't have to tell you this, but the Zephyrus G14 is the better laptop by far. The Blade 14 did get thinner this year, and even got an OLED to compete with the Zephyrus. But it did this by becoming slower, only going up to an RTX 5070 and having no coding for its display. So the Zephyrus has a better display, better speakers, way better performance in normal use and during gaming, longer battery life, and all of that for almost the exact same price. The Blade does look pretty though, for what it's worth. So if you want a 14-inch gaming laptop, or just a fast small laptop, just get the Zephyrus G14. Hell, even the 2024 Zephyrus G14 is better than this Blade 14. It's a lot cheaper than the 2025 Blade, and its RTX 4070 is just as fast as this 5070. Of course, this all depends on your local pricing, so check that first. But it looks like the king is keeping its crown this year. Well done, Asus. Now let me give a huge shout out to my YouTube members. Soundwife, Thomas, Inky, Mr. Frosty Dude, Dropzone1, Martijn Snijkers, Flimsy, Aki, Disco Volante, Daniel, Mr. Nuke, Sebastian, Christian Sands, Real Elf, Suryansh, Alan, Toasted, Eric the Rad, Wesley Rhodes, Michael, and Ghost Data. If you become a YouTube member, you get early access to content of mine, a shout out at the end of every video, and you'll also be supporting me as a creator to make these videos. And of course, you'll also be part of the Cool Guys Club, so you can use cool emojis like these in the comment section. So join the club if you're interested, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye bye.